Welcome to the Paranormal Sideshow. I'm your host, John Edwards, and joined as always by my lovely wife, Stacey.
Hello.
And we gotta talk about shadow people. Yeah, so it's not the way I normally start one of these off.
No.
And I actually had an entirely different beginning to this show. Thanks for working tirelessly on that.
That's all right.
I had to get rid of that, and I felt it was more important to discuss this with the shadow people. And the reason is, in popular culture, sometimes you see things, and I love patterns anyway, as you know, and most anyone who has followed our show since the days of Haunted South, since Stacey's wearing the shirt, the throwback.
Throwback shirts.
It's always been a thing for me, man. It's always been one of these things that's followed us around, literally, for years and years and years. And of course, there's all the different kinds of paranormal activity, right? You have intelligent, you have residual, you have demonic. There's a plethora of different types of paranormal activity. And then you've got ufology. And traditionally, those folks don't like these folks. And the cryptid folks just don't like anyone, you know? So it's really weird for, when we started this journey decades ago, but when we started this show in particular over a decade ago, we wanted paranormal unity before it was a buzzword. I'd like to think we helped create that buzzword, but in that doing that, all these different things sometimes do meet.
They do.
Sometimes it's a little paranormal mixer.
It's a lot of crossover there.
It is. It is. And it's when you look at patterns, when you look at things that connect. So I'm definitely the crazy guy sitting in the room with the, going nuts on the meme with all the connections and dots and stuff. I can't help it. That's happened recently. And that's happened in a big way. Ancient Aliens is one of our favorite shows. It's funny. It always has been. And yeah, we know that there's maybe 10% of what they show that probably has anything to do with an ancient alien.
Right.
But I will say some of it does.
Right.
But I think it's more likely, not to get off on a tangent, but a very highly advanced ancient us got to a level, cataclysm happened, and we're left with the remains. We tried leaving little clues around, and it seems like we're getting closer and closer to unraveling some of those clues as days go by. It seems almost like with technology, and of course this is going to get back to everything connected. Technology is very much connected with our ancient past. And the way that happens is the more technologically advanced we seem to become, the more we dig up. The easier it is for us to find it.
Right.
We can use LiDAR technology. We can go deeper. We can look further than ever before. I've even seen things where we're using AI to help find ancient lost works by, basically writing them. So throughout my life, I was talking about how we've been literally followed by shadow people. And, what are shadow people? Why is that different than a ghost? Why is that different than, one of these other things? And for a long time, I didn't think they were. I really believed, we believed, that it was probably a human spirit of some, way and just trying to communicate. And it still could be. That's the whole thing. We exist in a field of theories. And we're kind of at a disadvantage because every day that I live on this earth, I realize that more and more, nothing is what it seems. Things that I originally had wide eyes and wonderment and then got, disenfranchised. Like all of a sudden I'm like, oh, no, nothing. This is all work or whatever. And then you come to find out, oh, no, it's all real. It's all real. In fact, it's way more real than what they told you. And that's kind of happened to us in a big way, many times. It's one of these deals like this. And so the Ancient Alien show, again, 10% maybe, The cool thing about the show is they show cool discoveries. They take their cameras to, 2018, Bangladesh.
They show very recent stuff too.
Yeah.
They're very up to date.
Whatever. It's really great stuff. And I love it. I love anything people put work into and anything that covers some of these subjects you don't get in the mainstream,
Right.
so to speak, because we know that anything that's not in the mainstream is probably way more real than what's in the mainstream. Seriously. So Ancient Aliens recently had an episode called Shadow People, where they actually discussed theories and stories, eyewitness accounts, had, experts on to discuss the merits of it, what they are. And then, of course, they intertwined it with Ancient Aliens. I mean, it's the show. It's the premise.
Right.
And from doing what we've done with television, we know how that works. You just gotta go with it, folks. But it still yet was shocking to me. It was shocking to me because this is not something that's discussed often in polite conversation. It just doesn't brought up ever in the mainstream. So it got me really thinking about our encounters that we've had. And of course, the big one that started John and Stacey off as John and Stacey. There wouldn't be a John and Stacey. I mean, there might be a John and Stacey. Shouldn't say it like that.
Right.
But me and this one, we're not the Marion type. Neither one of us. We're not the type to stick around. We're kind of vagabond by heart. We'd much rather have a sack on the back and ride in the back of a train.
Not vagabonds, hobos.
Oh, hobos, yes. Sorry, we're hobos. That's just who we are. We're wild at heart. We like to travel. We like to meet new people that we're not going to like and go to new places, see things that we've never seen. We know how short we've got, relatively speaking, to do such things. So why not? What we never wanted was the picket fence and the 3.5 and all that good stuff. So we found a way to make them both work. It works. And we started talking when this episode came on about some of our amazing experiences, because they're some amazing experiences. We get caught up in the other things quite often. We get caught up in the crazy news from throughout the world, which we love. And God knows we keep up with that. So it's always there. It's being sent to us. We're researching it, what have you. And that makes new theories. And, right now we've got a whole list of places we're going to investigate. We're, places that we're going to explore and talk about, recreating our vlog we love doing and things like that. But this kept popping back in my mind throughout the last couple of weeks. About the shadow people, and I couldn't take it lightly because there's probably a reason for that. So I looked up online and I was like, I want to give, especially our newer viewers, newer listeners, a quick one over, on, cause I have some casual listeners who've never been on an investigation. They just enjoy the weird and the kooky, and I applaud you for that. But you may not know what the definition, dare say, of a shadow person is. So I actually looked up, and believe it or not, I found an article from 2018 from Bustle, and I'm going to quote directly from it.
Okay. So
it gives about as good as you can, and I'll give both sides of the argument, so to say here. Descriptions of shadowy human-like figures have appeared in folklore and religious texts throughout history and cultures. Some examples include the supernatural creatures known as jinn of ancient Islamic theology, the shadowy beings known as Nalusa Chito of the Native American Choctaw tribes mythology. The modernly used term shadow people was apparently coined by paranormal researcher and book author Heidi Hollis, who claims that shadow people have been around since the beginning of time and usually appear as dark human-shaped silhouettes in our peripheral vision. The fear of the dark and all of its shadows is a common one, probably because our eyes tend to play tricks on us when the lights are low. A jacket hanging on the door can easily morph into a silhouette, and a pile of blankets could suddenly look like someone lurking in your bed. But could shadow people be more than that? And it goes into what are shadow people. So shadow people are a bit of an enigma in the paranormal community. Professional witch and psychic Renee Watt tells Bustle, they are often thought of as ghosts or a collection of negative energy, but as true with most paranormal phenomena, there is no finite answer. According to Watt, shadow people can appear in different forms and may even indicate that someone is under a psychic attack. Many paranormal experts also theorize there may be a connection between shadow people and extraterrestrial life, and that these beings could be otherworldly in origin or have a correlation with alleged alien abduction experiences. While the exact supernatural origin of these shadow-like beings is debated among paranormal experts, there is one thing that most agree upon, which is the presence of shadow people is wholly unsettling. These shadowy human-like entities have a bit of a murky reputation, as most people who report seeing them state that they feel uncomfortable, scared, and in some extreme cases even paralyzed with fear, Watt says. Most reports on shadow people are overwhelmingly negative and are accompanied by a feeling of dread. So then it goes to the scientific explanation. Skeptics note that seeing shadow people could simply be chalked up to sleep paralysis, which is a medical phenomenon that takes place when someone is in between a sleeping and wakeful state. During sleep paralysis, a person feels fully conscious, but they're unable to move or speak, and may experience a feeling of intense dread. The sensation of being suffocated, or even hallucinations of shadowy figures. Other potential explanations include experiencing heightened emotional states, sleep deprivation, and substance abuse. So I wanted to include that to really give the overview, right, of the phenomena. I agree with all of it, honestly, in its own way. The sleep deprivation, can totally cause a lot of things. And of course, drug use. Let me know which ones let you see shadow people so I can try it out. No. And of course, sleep paralysis. I'm going to start with that. Okay. The sleep paralysis thing I've experienced, but I've only experienced it a handful of times. And I recently had a discussion with someone who came to me about a loved one, and they're actually a listener of the show. Their loved one was experiencing sleep paralysis, and it still is. It's a bad deal. And they're going to go through a sleep study, all that good stuff. And that also was within the midst of me thinking about all this, that this person came up to me and started just telling me this, right? Very strange. Coincidental, which I don't believe in coincidence. Mm-hmm. So my sleep paralysis, the first one I remember having ever was the year 2000. And I was listening to music, had headphones on, and it was in bed, Stacey beside me. I woke up and I couldn't move. I couldn't move anything. I could move my eyes, but I couldn't move anything else. And I didn't feel like I was breathing or that I could breathe, and I couldn't scream. I wanted to scream really badly. It's horrifying. It was a terrifying experience. It was so bad that I didn't want to go back to sleep ever. It's terrifying. I had it happen again a couple times. Had other things happen, but I'm not going to mix these. I believe it's very important when dealing with the paranormal to not exaggerate. And oh my God, do I love telling stories. But it's very, very critical to not exaggerate experiences you have paranormally. It's just trust. You have to have trust. And everything I'm telling you, and I'm about to tell you, is 100% real. It's very important that you realize what I'm saying. There's no story. There's no, made up creations here. This is 100% real encounters that I believe need to go together, that have happened with us or with me, with shadow people. The sleep paralysis happened at its worst in 2007. And I was babysitting Ariana. I've told the story on the show before. And Ariana was only a year old. Stacey was at work. I was off this day. So I was babysitting her, and we used to babysit her. And then this happened in what we refer to as the Black House. Anybody who's read our book knows why we call it the Black House. Not a good place. Very haunted. And when you have a little baby, you sleep when you can. So I fell asleep in the floor beside her. We had been playing in the living room floor. And I was sort of facing her because I'm always really worried. I'm a worried daddy. That's just how I am. So I always like to be protector and all this good stuff. And I fell asleep facing her, probably about as far away as I am from Stacey. And her little chubby face was right there facing mine. The next thing I know, I am woke up, but I need to stress the fact that I was not dreaming. I know the difference. It's not a dream. So I wake up and I have the feeling of paralysis, and it had been 5 years since this had happened to me. No real reason for this to be happening to me. It's probably 11 a.m., 10:30 a.m. in the morning. There's nothing playing in the house. There's no TVs on. There's nothing. It's very quiet. It's a very quiet neighborhood. And I'm staring at her, but I can't move. And I hear a voice. And this voice is horrifying. It's very Hollywood horror movie. It's very deep, grumbly kind of thing. And it's telling me things, just like a memory I have from being a small child, being lifted in the air, being told things, except that was a pleasant voice. The similarity is I can't tell you what it said. I have no idea. I try to remember, because I remember getting mad and in my head saying a few things back, because I would do anything for my kid. But I just wanted nothing more than to come out of this. And after a few minutes, I did. I called Stacey immediately and told her what had happened. And I had a lot of trouble processing this because it was just too much, especially with things we had already experienced. So since then, I haven't had any more of those experiences, thank God, as far as sleep paralysis. No, I've had some experiences, but as far as sleep paralysis, no. It goes to when I was a kid, I have memories of shadows, walking by the window and this and that. They're fleeting, but they are there, Again, you go back to our first shared experience, and we've chronicled it on the show, we've chronicled it online, we've chronicled it in our book, we've put it everywhere because it was paradigm shifting. And that's the event. Most of you know that, and it's easy to find, but we shared an experience in different rooms. Not going to go into the minutia of it all, but it was a shadow person. And this shadow person was solid. Couldn't see through them. They're running, late afternoon, sun coming through for me. It didn't matter. This shadow person ran in the back door, ran between Stacey and the television, actually physically manipulated objects as this happened, which were hard to manipulate, and runs out of the house. We both had to see it. It was almost like it had to be seen. And it happened at a time and in a way and in a situation that any of my skeptical beliefs had to be stomped on. There was no way to explain it. There's no way to explain it. And it happened to both of us. It really got us together on the journey. That was back in 97. Yeah, kids. Back in 97. Amazing we were together when we were still in diapers like that.
I know.
It's nuts.
It's crazy.
But that, as I said, there's a longer version of that, that's out there, but it's important because of, my God, it's totally real. As I started this off saying, there's it's not always humanoid, it's not always the human shaped spirit or shadow. Mm-hmm. We had what we call, the Astral Critter that happened in 2000, late 99, 2000. And this was in a house we lived in Tennessee. And it was, Stacey and I both had been seeing this, and we didn't discuss it because we don't discuss things like that, very often back then. We do now more. We'll bring it to the table, so to speak. But we had been seeing little thing at the corner of your eye. Think Doctor Who. Mm-hmm. That little thing at the corner of your eye. So everybody's had that corner of your eye deal, right? Did I see that? Did I not? And shadow people are notorious for that. It happens on investigations all the time. But I don't have all those listed. But I get peekers, that all of a sudden you get in and out, right? And this cat, so to speak, was ridiculous. It would run across the floor. We both seen it several times, and it lasted a few weeks. Mm-hmm. Till it didn't, till it was gone. Had similar things, and embraced a lot of those since then. But as far as having this shadow form, to this day, yesterday I had a shadow, same kind of thing. And, it was just as strange. Stacey was feeding Spooky, and she hollered for Spooky, and a black shadow gets out of her spot on the bed. And I just see it go off the bed. I'm like, whoa, hold on a second. Is there another Spooky? Like, we think the cat's got like an ancestor with it or something. It's like mittens or something, I don't know. Just saying, that one, it's a whole different phenomena, or is it? I don't know. We don't know. I go from that to something that's a little bit more scary for me. In 2010, we were coming back into a really good place, and we were coming out of the darkest place ever. The absolute darkest. The darkest year. And coming into this better place, 2010, 2011, we're in a new place. We've moved around a lot. And I started experiencing something I never experienced before. Thank God it's not happened since. But for a few weeks, I was seeing a black shadow figure at night, and it had a hat. And it was before I knew, much about a hat man, so to speak.
I think that's what he's called now.
Yeah. But, it was before any kind of viral, teenage-fueled, crazy stories on the internet. It wasn't any Slender Man crap, or at least not in my purview.
Right.
And I would, I chronicled it with Stacey and told her, so at the time I was having an awakening of sorts anyway. And so I was telling her just about everything that was coming to me, anything I was seeing. But this was alarming. This was scary. This was like over the bed. This was not cool. And I've begged for this thing to be gone. And it was. Didn't happen for very long, but yet, shadow person, right?
It did. That one actually did pop up 2 or 3 more times when we lived in Richlands.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. I remember a couple times. Wasn't a lot.
Yeah.
But it was just like random periods of time, and you would mention that you saw him.
So the experience you had at my mom and dad's, and that was really scary for you. Was there a shadow involved with that?
I think so. It was one of those things where I was like in the half sleep kind of thing, and I opened my eyes and it was dark in the room, but you could still tell there was a shadow kind of rushing you. And it like rushed up to my face. I hate when that happens.
I do too.
I hate the rushing.
I've had that happen on investigations.
And that's what happened. And that's why I made you leave the light on whenever we slept in there. Because it's, I wear contact lenses. So when I sleep at night, I take them out and I don't see very well anyway. So it makes it a little extra creepy for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I didn't understand that until my vision started being not as good as it was. So, speaking of scary, I have to include this one. The event for Tim Clark, our brother in arms, our former tech guy, Haunted South TV, baby, John, Stacey, and Tim.
Yep.
That was the team. And, we did so much together. Had the best time in the world with the Clarks. One day, Tim, after this event that I'm about to tell you about, came to me and he said, we were recording, actually. We were doing this. And this was 11 years ago. He said, I've seen all I need to see, John. You finally done it. I don't need to be around it anymore. It's real, And he grew up in a very haunted house. He had seen everything. He'd seen little ghost children dancing around a room and going into a fireplace, for love of God. He'd experienced a lot of stuff with me. But we were at Waverly Hills. And anybody who knows Waverly Hills, Waverly Hills. There's so much different kind of activity there that I love the place.
Yes.
But the place is also horrifying. Man, it's got some scary. It just does. And we were there. Tim and I were on the first floor. We were investigating by ourselves. Everybody was on different floors, obviously. That's what I mean by that. And we were following noises, as we would do. Little knocks, rattles, padoons. And we were in one room near the pharmacy, I believe. We were in one room and we both at the same time heard something kind of in hallway in front of us. The way we're in the room, directly in front of us is another room, but you can see into the room because the windows aren't all there, kind of thing, and then, doors up, whatever. But hallway wise, there's a lip and you can see into the next room. Okay. So lip, next room, hallway, us standing, and we both see a shadow person. Now, it's happened to me before at this point, but that doesn't prepare you anymore. We both had flashlights, and we both put our flashlights on this shadow person because we thought I don't know what we thought, but it felt like it had to be a person. We put our flashlights on it, and it did not dissipate. Think about that. So we both turned flashlights, LED flashlights, on this shadow person.
That was not a real person, right?
That was not a real person. And it did not dissipate. The shadow remained. I don't know why I decided to chase it. I don't know why Tim decided to chase it. But we chased it. We just did. One of the few times I ever remember hearing Tim say, F it. And that's how it happened. We both see it. And I'm going. And he's like, F it. And we both go. The thing runs from us.
Well, yeah. It's probably not used to people running after it.
It darts into the room. We dart in after it, and we actually see it go into this closet room, which we can't see into that room. That room's all darkness. We get all the way to the opening to that closet-y type area or the next room. I can't tell you because I never went in. We get to that door, and he looks at me, and I look at him. He goes, what the hell are we doing? And I'm like, that's a good question, Tim. I'm not great. He's like, no, what the hell are we going to do when we catch it? What are we going to do when we catch it? You may ask yourself, do you regret that? No, I don't. Don't regret it a bit. Sometimes I wake up in the morning want to do a shot. You know why? Here's to the time I didn't catch the shadow person. As much as I want mysteries solved, it doesn't mean that when I'm looking for Nessie, I particularly want to find Nessie that close.
Right.
You know, it's like at a good distance. That'd be great. Shadow person, be fun to catch him on the camera. Mm-hmm. You know, it was, I make light of it. But that's exactly how it happened. And I want you to wrap your mind around that. Imagine right now, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, a shadow person appears and you have a light. You can flash on it. And the another part to this is crazy. That light did not, if I shine a light on Stacey, mm-hmm. that light is going to be on her person. It's going to be on her body. I'm going to see that light. This ate the light. I shined the light on it. There was no light on it. Everything was lit around it, mm-hmm. but I still seen the shadow. Is it being cast from another dimension? Is it, what is this? If it was a true shadow, it should disappear. Mm-hmm. So we've seen it in popular culture. We've seen it, one of the most famous ghost hunters from the early days when everybody watched St. Augustine Lighthouse, and you see it a little peeker over when they're looking up. Everybody loved it. So St. Augustine, blew up in popularity because of that. Mm-hmm. Everybody has seen I don't know if it ever went viral or not. It went viral in our world. The football stadium, soccer stadium for, mm-hmm. The rest of you, where you see the shadow person running. And this means a lot to me and Stacey because it's exactly like the running shadow person that we experienced during the event.
Oh, yeah. Looks almost identical.
And you see it running through this soccer stadium. Mm-hmm. And that's a good example because it was at a different speed. And a lot of times for us, every time for us, it feels like these things are existing at the same time, a step off. A little bit faster, a little bit different. Like they don't belong. Maybe they're here in limited time capacity, little burst or whatever. But it seems to us like they're not supposed to be here. And, more so as we advance in technology and we look at all these things and we go back to the beginning of time, we're looking at all these stories. Is it interdimensional? The more we go along, interdimensional seems more and more possible. We find out things every day, every single day. Things we didn't think in any way would exist, now exist. Things we didn't believe just a few years ago were possible are now possible. And that grows exponentially because of computers and AI and this technology, the way it keeps growing. So I'm don't like saying anything couldn't happen because it could, but the question is, what are they? because I don't believe they're ghosts. I have a hard time believing that these things are the same spirits as we've all experienced. You know, we've experienced the spirits. We've seen full body apparitions. We've seen half body apparitions, lower half. You know, we've seen things like that, but we've also seen a lot of these quick corner of your eye or peekers or just weird, man. And some of these were some of the most hardcore shadow people experiences that I've had, especially the Waverly Hills and the event. Those are two that stick out like crazy for me.
Right.
So what say you? What do you think?
Well, I haven't had quite as many shadow people experiences as you, other than the event. I never had any of the sleep paralysis, and you know, just the one thing when I was sleeping with it rushing on me. But I don't know. It's such a weird. I don't believe that every instance is because of sleep deprivation or, you know, whatever those other reasons are. I mean, obviously, because of our first event, it's middle of the day, wide awake, doing things. You know, it wasn't.
Put us at a disadvantage.
Yeah, it wasn't exactly.
As far as being skeptically minded, which I know you love to be, you know, you love to really weigh all the possibilities, but it set us up for a disadvantage as far as going into these things with that healthy skepticism.
Right.
When it's someone coming to us saying they seen this, you know, if someone came to us and said, well, this shadow person, you know, well, Marjorie's in the other room and, you know, I was frying some wieners,
Right.
you know, and then boom, boom, boom. And if that had not happened to us,
right.
it'd be hard as hell to believe that.
Harder to believe. Yes.
Yeah. It would be really hard for us to believe it. We'd take the case, do everything we could. Privately, it'd be hard to believe. And man, that pissed us off because we don't want to be those people.
Right.
I know what I saw people. And you see where this goes into abductions. This goes into, and you know, there's a lot more personally that's happened that also adds to that. But like I said, I wanted to keep this in the realm of shadows. So it's just one of those things that was very perplexing. It's very, especially seeing it in pop culture, you know, it's, if you had to definitively, if you had to say what this was in your opinion, okay, what would you lean toward, or what would you say it is more so than, you know, something else?
I would say that it is more so probably some type of spirit, just like you said, like a step off, like maybe another dimension, maybe trying to come through and is not able to come through all the way, you know, so it looks like a shadow to us. I don't think that's the explanation for every one of them because they're all different. You know, you got the little ones, which I think are something a little different. And, you know, you definitely have the ones that you see that probably are sleep paralysis and,
right,
you know, medically explainable.
So you think like the little ones, the elemental type,
right,
know,
right, or more
like things like that might be a whole different phenomenon.
Right, right, or things that maybe you pick up when you're on an investigation and it follows you home. You know, just residual things that you see for a few days. I think it's a different explanation for all of those different types of things. As far as the shadow person we saw, I feel like it's more of a because of other things that happened that we didn't go into. It was more of a thing that we sort of reached out to the other side.
You opened the door, and something did try to come through, but maybe couldn't, but still wanted to make its presence known. So that kind of thing. Yeah, I mean, if you open the door, you know, it's like I talk to people that never have experiences, supposedly, and we've talked about this recently, but it simply comes down a lot of times to whether or not you've opened yourself up for it. And I was explaining it to somebody, my favorite one, somebody today. I was, you know, they were like, well, I don't know. I've never really had these experiences, John, but this really, because they had experience, this really threw me off. And I'm like, yeah, it'll do that. And I was like, all right, so look, say, and this is a guy I'm talking to, I had to be funny with it, but say you're walking down the street and a bunch of construction guys whistle at you. Now, right there, you have a choice. You can continue walking, not think about it, not put it over, go on with your life, and guess what's going to happen? You're going to forget about that pretty quickly. Not going to be an issue. Just go on because you ignored it. You chose to ignore it. Or you turn, go over, maybe have a date, relationship, fight them, whatever. That's a whole different thing. But you have made them into existence. You've
acknowledged them.
You've acknowledged them. It's brought them into your life. Even though they reached out, you had the choice.
Right.
This happens.
They're going to remember you more the next time, too, because they probably whistle at everybody that walks by.
Exactly.
And they're not going to remember people that ignore them.
Exactly. And some people acknowledge the whistle. Some people don't. We can't help ourselves. Now, the construction workers ran in the street and grabbed us. We didn't have much of a choice here. But as Stacey said, we asked for it.
We did.
We kind of whistled at them first.
Yeah. We like made a door and then closed it. Yeah. Like nothing was going to happen, even though there's still a door there.
when you research the paranormal, there's dangers. It's very important to realize this. When you, get a Ouija board out and you're playing it in the house, you hear everybody just tell you, oh, you shouldn't do that. And they never go into why that much. And you watch movies, oh, you open the doorway to hell. Not necessarily, but you are absolutely opening up the willingness to communicate. And whether or not you close that back properly, which who the hell knows if we're doing it properly?
Very true.
None of us.
Very true.
After all these years, I can't tell you when I close something, if I've closed it or not. We don't know. We don't even know what we're dealing with.
We think we do.
Yeah. And maybe that's enough.
Yeah.
Maybe it's like a spell. Right. Maybe it's like a good luck charm. The reason they work is our belief in them. Protection, when you imagine a light around you of protection, I firmly believe that's really happening. That your mind, if you believe it strongly enough, is actually protecting you in that instance. So there's a lot of wild to it, right? And the reason sometimes these things work or curses work is because somebody finds out about it and they believe it. So there's a lot of powers going on here that we don't understand. And that's why the question is, what are shadow people to you? We want to know what you think. So reach out to us. Leave a comment. Either if you're listening to this on any of the ways you can listen, you should really leave a comment for us on YouTube. Definitely leave a comment. We check the YouTube comments. If you want to reach out to us, however you want to do it, just do it. Get a hold of us. Let us know, because I really want to know. Maybe we can bring a few of you on or something to discuss this in more of a roundtable thing. Have, if there's 5, 6, 7 different personal experiences or things like that, because I really want to know. I really want to see some more, things. I want to hear some more personal experiences, because really truthful, honest experiences, no matter how big or how small, help us to build this. And that's all we have is each other. That's all we've got in any of these experiences, any paranormal survivors, if you will. That's all we have is the experiences. And you place those all together, it's like a paranormal Me Too movement. All of a sudden, like, 100 people coming out like, well, the shadow person did this with me. The shadow person's like, oh God, I'm going to get canceled. That's how we learn. That's how we grow. We get it out in the open. So our challenge to you, let us know. Reach out to us. But that's my shadow people story.
It's very interesting.
Thank you. So as always, if you like it, join our Patreon, support us, help us find more shadow people. And that would be patreon.com/Paranormal Sideshow. For my lovely wife, Stacey, for our shadow here, I'm John. So long from the Sideshow.
Good night.